Welcome to the Fast Friends framework. It's a mouthful. I call it F3 for short. This is the second part of a three-part series of how we approach bar consulting and delivering profitable bars for clients in a very short amount of time. But the Fast Friends framework is designed for bar owners, bar managers, front of house workers, as a trainable but unforgettable system that you can teach anybody how to use it in just a couple of minutes. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. You'll start to see it everywhere, actually. But this is just kind of putting a bit of consumer psychology, a bit of behavioral economics into what we do every day as far as the steps of service training. So this is a kind of indispensable training. Hopefully you can use it, rip it off, explain it to people, tell people that you came up with it. It doesn't matter to me because I do not come up with any of this stuff. I'm simply compiling a bunch of information that I've used in my 10 years behind a bar, my 10 years as a bar consultant, and a bunch of books that I've read about how people think, how people make decisions, and the burden of decisions. So on the bottom right of your screen, you're going to see a chat button. So if you have any questions, thoughts, ideas, anything that you want to discuss as part of this, I'd love for you to just put in the chat right now that, hi, I'm here, hi. Because right now I'm a little nervous that there's so many people here, actually. I didn't expect that. And if you're a consultant, if you're a bartender that's kind of ambitious, then I'll show you how we use this content in other ways to help you present your offers and stuff like that. So this is the Fast Friends Network framework. This is an integral part of what I do with all of my bar consults, because this is a retention mechanism. It's a steps of service training. And this is how we get people to have a better experience with us. So hi Emma, thanks for being here. So I got two screens going here. Hopefully I got this figured out right. But as you can see, I am a master slide builder in Google Slides. So hopefully you can see how amazing this is. The color in this whole presentation is going to come from your questions and your ideas. And again, this is going to take about 20 minutes. It's for bar owners, bar managers, bartenders who want to help with guest retention. So without further ado, the Fast Friends framework. Be sure to use the comments. That's what I'm reading on the other screen. So new people are 100% the lifeblood of a new bar and restaurant. We have a very, very short amount of time to make any kind of impression. And we're trying to make a positive impression here. We're trying to get people to like us, right? So people don't buy things from people that they don't know, like, and trust. So it's hard enough to get people to come into the door for the first time. And so we're trying to get them to come in for the second time, because that kind of growth is what is required to not thrive, but to survive. Like, you have to in order to maintain your presence, as in pay your bills, pay your payroll, pay your taxes, you need people to come in again. That's just the way it is. It is a cutthroat business. There's extremely low margins, and it's very difficult to survive. So when they get there, it's a battleground of expectations, perceptions, assumptions, entitlements, comparisons, and all the normal stresses of everyone's life. And also, and also we're talking about the guests here too. So both the staff and the guests have all these things that they bring into their experience when they come into you, and that's a lot to manage. We have to be empathetic when we're thinking about that. So becoming friends with your customers very quickly solves a lot of other problems downstream. So you don't hassle your friends about their little foibles because they're your friends, and you're not a dick, so you're nice. And so becoming friends is a very important part of the whole conversation that happens inside of their mind. So these are problems that help bars and restaurants survive in an already typically hostile environment. So I don't know, I'm based in New York. And they issue way more liquor licenses and leases than the market has the ability to serve the market. So it's hyper competitive, and that's what leads to these a massive failure rate. So this presentation is for bar owners, for bar managers, for bartenders, servers, front of house people who want to step up their game. And the objective is quite simple, and we're trying. Hopefully, it's easy to remember. And easier to train. So if you're here, if you RSVP'd for this, then I will send you an email with a specific training checklist of all the things that we go through to train people. And it's hopefully very easy to implement. It's literally we do this sometimes in 5 minutes in pre-service. So we want to make sure that the staff feels good about this, because they are setting the tone, they're setting the expectations, and they are implementing this process. And this is all in service of making the guests feel welcome, feel happy to be there, and also, more so, you'll see that I get into this quite considerably, is that we're relieving them of the burden of decisions, right? So this creates measurable results, and it shares meaningful hospitality, and it entices guests to come back with a friend. So if I were to break down the success versus failure of a bar and restaurant, it is, does a guest come back? That is maintaining. Do they come back with a friend? That is a successful bar. And if you do that a reasonable percentage of the time, as low as 10% of the time they've come back with a guest, you will have more business than you know what to do with, and then you're thinking about other operational issues. But if a guest brings back a friend, you do not have to worry about money. So we're trying to also entice guests to leave a review. We want them, there's a lot of studies about this, but most of the time, if you just ask them to leave a review, they'll do it for you if you make it very easy for them. So what are the things that we like to measure? We like to, if you've ever heard of the Net Promoter Score, anybody ever heard of the Net Promoter Score? Put it in the chat if you yes. What is a good Net Promoter Score for anybody who knows that whole thing? So Net Promoter Score, also known as NPS, is a scale of 1 to 10. Would you recommend this bar or restaurant to a friend or a family member, right? So it's very cutthroat. It's not what you think it is. We'll get into Net Promoter Score in just a little bit, but we're also looking at the number of reviews. We want the number of reviews to grow and increase as the days and weeks go by. And we're looking for loyalty and retention. That means just bringing a friend by. And so there's a bunch of different things that you can do to influence these different elements. But if you're not thinking about these things and measuring these things, then you are seriously running the risk of going out of business, like 80% of bars and restaurants over 5 years, 67% in the first year. These are shocking statistics. So we all understand the challenges that bars and restaurants have every day. There's massive compliance. There's always somebody shaking you down for some sort of a tax or some sort of a fee, or you're waiting on a permit. That's all compliance. Competition. There's probably 2 other bars on your block. 2 other bars and restaurants on your block. At least in New York, it's like the bars are stacked inside of each other. It's insane. Low profitability. So most of the time it's very difficult to make $1 out of 15 cents, and so it's actually closer to 5 cents out of $1. So so profitability is, looking for profitability and find out where you can shave dollars off is part of a different part of the program. But low profitability is a massive problem. So F3 is part of a 3-part blueprint for bars and restaurants to address the most critical areas that cause 67% failure rate in the first year. 80, and it's I think I missed a slide, 80% failure rate over 5 years. And these are, it depends on the study that you look at, but it's grim. It's crazy. If I were an investor looking at these stats, I'd be like, why would I ever invest in a restaurant? You wouldn't. So this is the first part of the 3-part. So F3 is the Fast Friends framework, what you're about to get right now. Then the second part of this is reputation management, which leverages AI and automation to ask people for a lot of reviews, influence reviews, and get people to come back. And then Tidy Ops is basically where we look at your documents and find out exactly where the operational efficiencies are on paper, and that includes do not reorder stock. That means like stock efficiency, menu economics, that kind of stuff. So these 3 things combined are what we look at, what I implement for every bar and restaurant client to make sure that they are actually able to make money. All right, so all this stuff is going to be for free. It's going to be available on barteams.com, and I'd love for you to join the community if you possibly can. Because that's if you're here, then that means you have at least a little bit of ambition, and that's where the conversation starts for bar people that have ambition. So head over there. It's a free community. There's nothing to buy there. So let's talk about the controllables. What we can control are the guest and the staff experience. We can control our processes, and we can measure the results of those activities. What we can't control, and this applies to guests and the staff, is the human experience, the part that what somebody's day, they have shit jobs that they hate. They have a tough boyfriend or a great boyfriend. I don't know. They have no boyfriend. I don't know. They feel bad that they can't spend time with their pets. And so they're any number of things. They're carrying around this baggage with them all day long. None of those things we can control, but that doesn't mean that they are going to stop bringing them to us every single day. So let's get into the framework. It is a process. It's a mindset. and it's all about decisions. So I obsess over decisions. Like, why would somebody decide to do A versus decide to do B? And what we're doing is like when you factor that into what the guest thinks about, then it becomes like this this rat's nest of information going on. They're thinking about, what am I going to eat? Where am I going to eat? Where am I going to sit? What is that? But what they're actually thinking about is way more complicated than that. They're thinking about, what are other people going to think of me? And we like to tell people that we don't care what other people think, but we absolutely 100% do. What will people think of me? I really want this to go well. If it's a date, if it's a business meeting, it's like, how will my decision to go here reflect on me? And will I get the raise that I'm looking for? Will I get the project that I'm looking for? Am I going to make enough money? Are my parents going to be proud of me? All this shit is happening underneath our thoughts that we're thinking about. So, am I going to be successful? And ultimately, am I going to be happy? So these are only a few of the things that go through people's minds every few minutes. And most decisions made on a daily basis are in pursuit of the desired outcome of those questions. So it leads them to what they wear, how they act, where they go, and this includes your bar. So tens of thousands of decisions are made every single day. Like, by now, it's 1 o'clock Eastern time. And by now, we've already made around 10 to 15,000 decisions. What kind of shoes are you going to wear? Did I feed my dog? What headphones am I going to wear? Are my cameras plugged in right? And so, Google says that 35,000 decisions are made every single day. And that sounds exhausting, right? I mean, has anybody ever, write in the chat if you've ever experienced decision fatigue, where you're just like, I'm just like done with it. I do not want to decide anything anymore. Anybody? So anyways, it's extremely exhausting. Yes. And so what our job is if we are being very mindful and trying to deliver a superior service, which is the difference between success and failure, is what if we help them relieve themselves of the burden of having to make so many decisions? And it may seem like really simple, and it's because it is. That we are trying to make things as easy as possible for guests, but we don't think about a lot of things until we start to see it in other industries. Like if you're going to fly, for instance, then you see this all the time. If you're in very high-end restaurants, you see this all the time. If you're boarding a train in Tokyo, you see this a lot. So let's make it easy for the guests. Let's make it easy for the staff. And let's eliminate or simplify as many decisions as possible. This is known as decision architecture, or nudging, in the vernacular of behavioral economics. So there it is. I made a slide for that. Yeah. So understanding this kind of stuff helps with making faster decisions, better decisions, and easier decisions, which leads to better service, better perception, and better experience overall for guests and for the staff. So a better experience means a better reputation. Better reputation means easier discovery. Easier discovery means one less decision. So less decisions equal better service, and then it kind of just feeds on itself and feeds on itself. So this is a search for bars and restaurants near me. And I don't want to get too much into digital marketing because this is more about perception analytics. But so what we're doing is we're saying, find the bars near me. Now, Amazon has trained us on how to make decisions, right? This is sometimes referred to as the Amazon effect. And so what happens is we see all these things that are near me. These are all the dots near my house. But if you notice, up here I searched for bars near me, and then it says here are the places that Google has decided are relevant to me, right? And so it's decided that they're relevant because of the number of reviews and the star ratings. So what is this? This is the first impression that you get that is received of your bar. So if you think them walking into your bar, seeing you make drinks, smelling the lemon juice in the air is the first impression, it's not. They've already decided how they are going to perceive your bar based on co-opting other people's decisions. And the way that other people do that is with star ratings, reviews, and number of reviews, right? Sounds obtuse, sounds shitty, but that is 100% the way it is. That is how people make decisions now. So by the time they see you, they've already decided whether they like you or not, right? And here's a different view. I forget why I put this in here. Yeah, this is actually closer to my house, but this is the desktop version of the same search, and it gave me a different result. And so this is part of why the reputation management piece of this matters, because we're trying to intervene into the first decision, which is where am I supposed to go. So reviews are super good. It doesn't matter if you're Michelin starred or if you are a dumpy dive bar down the corner. Reviews are absolutely essential. It's just, I didn't make the rules, but this is how people make decisions now. So if you're not cultivating and soliciting reviews for your bar or restaurant, you are absolutely playing the wrong game. So the holy grail, getting back to the Fast Friends framework, the holy grail of this whole thing is to get a return guest, is to get somebody to come back. And then we also want them to bring a guest back. So sometimes that means incentivizing, or a more passive, more organic way to do it is to just subtly nudge them into like, hey, we hope to see you again next time, and we'll buy you a drink if you bring a friend, something like that. I don't know. We'll talk about offers in a little bit, but this creates the beloved and elusive flywheel. So this is not my idea. I did not create this graphic, but the flywheel is a common understood business term for a thing that it's like cold fusion for bars and restaurants. So it generates more energy than the inputs, and the output is profit, right? So we're trying to attract new people, and we're trying to attract strangers. We're trying to turn them into prospects, or in our case, we're trying to turn them into people that would consider coming to see us. And so we engage them, and then they become customers, and then we delight them with what I'm about to show you. And then that creates promoters. Promoters on the Net Promoter Score are anybody that's a 9 or a 10. Just going back to the Net Promoter Score, if it's a 9 or a 10, that is a promoter. That is somebody who is rapidly for you, and they want to help you succeed, and they want to tell their friends and bring people. Those are the relationships that you cultivate, and that's where we want to be with the Fast Friends framework. Anybody who's a 7 or 8, they're neutral. You want to try to get them to be 9s or 10s, but they're neutral. They're not going to promote your brand. Anybody who's below that is service recovery, as in like you fucked up or something happened, and you need to recover that relationship. And that is anything below a 7, by the way. So the stakes are really high. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to create this flywheel of attract, engage, and delight, and that helps them make a decision, or that relieves them of the decision of whether or not they bring a friend the next time. So let's get there. There are 2 times of bars. There's peak and there's off peak, and the principles are pretty much the same, except for the feeling is a little bit different, and a little bit abbreviated. So peak is going to have a lot more urgency and scarcity. And then off peak is going to have relationships, is going to be more about developing relationships and giving rewards. Peak framework is just an abbreviation of the off peak framework. So in part 2 of this training, this is only half of it, but I'm going to give you the stuff that you need to start doing this today. But part 2 of this is going to be about how we handle on peak, how we implement this framework on peak, and also how you implement this with your team. So most of the steps of the process happen so fast that you don't even think about it. But universally, regardless of what you're selling, people buy things from people that they know, like, and trust, right? And so you can't develop that relationship by looking at Google reviews. So we have to develop that like real fast. Like if we're not developing that in the first couple seconds, then we've already lost. And people are petty. They hold on to things a lot longer than we would like. And so we have to develop that positive rapport very, very quickly. And here's how to do it. So you don't have to have all 3 things, know, like, and trust, but it really, really helps. So they have to know you to know that you exist to buy something from you. They have to like you. They will buy something from you if they don't like you, but it has to be like probably something that will save their life. So how do you create that in a few seconds? It seems simple, but it's often overlooked. And in my experience, doing 10 to 15, maybe 20 bar consults a year, this steps of training, this type of steps of service is rarely ever trained, if ever, and it's almost never retrained. But none of this works if you don't care. So that goes into like hiring and finding people who actually give a shit. But step 1 of the Fast Friends framework is make eye contact, wave, smile, say hi. Hi. Literally wave your hand like this. What happens when you wave your hand? You're drawing attention to yourself, right? And so that means that person is giving you their attention. And when they're not, and if that person is giving you their attention, then they're not thinking about the numerous distractions around it. They're not thinking, where am I supposed to go? because they know that you're going to go, and because you're smiling, you're waving. There's somebody that you're building trust. It seems so simple, but literally, smile and wave, even if you don't think they can see you, or even if you know they can't hear you. And so why is this a second impression? That is like literally when they walk in the door, that's probably the second impression that they're going to have. It's just as important as the first, like with the first impression, which is the Google reviews, that earn their way into the first part of the conversation where they walk through the door. An important note about this is that everything that happens outside of the door is a marketing conversation. Getting them to be inside, getting them to walk inside of the door is a marketing conversation. Once they walk through that door, it is a sales conversation. And so this is why it's very important to cultivate the second impression. And so like they've looked at their phone, they've decided where they're going to go, or their friend said, meet us here. And then when they walk in the door and they see somebody who's smiling at them, waving at them, which affirms their decision that they made a right decision. I don't know why that's in there again. So what we've done here is we've created a destination within the destination. And this removes uncertainty. Like, where am I supposed to be? Am I supposed to be here? Where am I supposed to go? Who am I here to see? What am I here to do? So if their friends aren't there, then it gives them a reason to be there. Otherwise, they would turn around and wait for their friends or do something else. It's uncertain. The second step of the Fast Friends framework is pointing and calling. And so you may have seen this if you've ever been to any, they actually do this in New York City subway as well. But in order to make sure that they follow certain rules, they will point it out and call it out. Say, I've seen this sign. That sign is that we're ready to go. It's time to move. And so what we're doing is we're saying, come here, do this. And not only are we enforcing a step of service, but we're also calling it out to ourselves to reinforce that we are making sure that this step is being done. And so we are waving our arms, and we are literally getting people to come in and pointing to where we want them to go. And that's another very important part. And if you have table service, then this is the point where we'd mark the table. And that could mean like placing a napkin, placing a coaster, but we mark the table so that we've acknowledged that there's something different as a result of them being there. And there's a thing that happens right there. So again, this removes uncertainty. How do I get there? Where do my bags go? Where's the bathroom? What's about to happen? Are they coming back? And so you've answered all these questions, which are the underlying questions that are happening in their subconscious. So once this happens, then the clock really begins, and we talk about table turn times. We talk about service times all the time, but this is when the clock really begins on that. So the third step on this in the Fast Friends framework is to establish a rapport. And so the three elements of establishing rapport are introduce, notice, and reward. Right? So introduce yourself. Hi, I'm Jason. We've been told to do that, but hi, I'm Jason. That's easy, right? Notice something. And this may seem kind of corny and tacky, but it works. People like to be complimented. They like to be noticed. And also, it makes it more personal for you. So when you're talking about shifts that are 12 hours long that feel like they're an hour long, when you develop this kind of rapport with people, then it's things go a lot faster. So hey, I like your scarf. Hey, what's up? I'm Jason. I like your scarf. Hey, what's up? I'm Jason. Thanks for coming in. Reward the action. Thanks for coming in tonight. This creates. So what we're doing is we're saying you made the right choice. You're a smart person for doing this. You're in good hands. And we're answering the questions: do I belong here? Is this place safe? Is this going to be fun? Will my date or friend be impressed? Right. And then step 4 is to become the trusted guide. Now, this is when things get really nasty. This is when, if you're off peak, again, all of this is based on off peak. So this is when you ask a question, be like, hey, what have you heard about this? Or how did you hear about us? How did you find this? What's your vision for tonight? What do you want to happen? You can ask any kind of variation of those questions, but what you're really trying to tease out of them is what are their expectations, and that'll give you a very good indication on how to meet them or how to align their expectations with the service offering that you're giving. So the next part of this is give and show, which starts with reciprocity, which explains reciprocity. So reciprocity is the subtle feeling that you owe somebody something, that you want to give something back to somebody. So this is why when you walk into a hotel room, or if you walk into if you walk into a car lot, they'll give you a bottle of water, right? And so what this does is it makes them want to, you feel like you owe them something, like as in you've been given something and that it's time to reciprocate. But first, let's just talk about really quickly what we're selling. Are we selling menu cocktails? Are we selling food? Are we selling merch? What are we selling, right? What are we selling really? Not stuff, experiences, right? So let's assume that, that the thing that we want to sell is a profitable, predictable, unique menu cocktail, right? Let's say that we're not necessarily a temple of mixology, but let's say that we've done the math on our drinks and we want to sell them because we know that they're profitable. So we're not going off script. We're not going into the wild and start and pouring, chartreuse swizzles at the same price as our menu cocktails. We're selling menu cocktails because we know that they're profitable. We know that they're what makes us us, and that's what we want to sell. So what you do is we have to it's embarrassing that I have to say this, but a lot of times when I go into a bar restaurant, they haven't even considered the guest perspective when looking at the menu. So a couple things here are, is it scannable? Can you see the words clearly? Because oftentimes when people walk through the door, they already know what they want or what type of thing that they want. So some people are like, I want a margarita or I want a Manhattan, something that's something that they already know about. And so can they see the menu without glasses? Is there enough light to read? Is it short enough to read in less than 5 minutes? Probably less than 3 minutes, actually. Are you switching things up with font sizes, features, and frames? And does the language make the guests feel smart, right? So I used to work on a menu that had 60 different drinks on it. Each had ingredients that the guests had no idea what to do. And it was so dark in there that they, even with a candle, they couldn't tell what it was. And so they pulled out their phone and had the thing. And so they had to dig through 10 pages, double-sided, to pick out what they wanted. And what do you think that does to our turn time? What do you think that does to the bartender who has to memorize 60 cocktails with 10 ingredients each? So it's, you can understand that was a temple of mixology, but it was very difficult for the guests. So giving means that we're doing some sort of an amuse or some sort of an offering that costs us. It's also known as an amuse bouche or an SFN, something for nothing. Just something, something that you're offering them, something that they feel that they have a responsibility to you at that point. And that's not mean, it's not weird. We're just saying, here's something for nothing. Now, a creative way that we've done this in the past is that we've used DNR stock. That means do not reorder. And what that ends up, so we'll look at a client's PMix, we'll look at their back bar inventory, and we'll see this is just not selling, it's just not working. How are we going to monetize this? And then we'll make a cocktail out of the DNR stock, then turn that into an amuse that we deliver to the table, something for nothing. So, and we're talking about an ounce, like a 1 ounce cocktail, just a tasting. And then the master of this is Dead Rabbit. Also, if you ever been to a barber shop or a salon, if you're waiting to go online, somebody will give you a card. They'll say, here's my card. We'll see in just a minute. Even that, just receiving a card will give somebody a sense of responsibility to reciprocate. And then also if you have if you have a kitchen, then maybe a little snack, just like a little ramekin full of something else, just to stimulate an appetite. But this does a couple different things. It's like, surprise, I brought you something without you having to ask. Dead Rabbit, again, is like the master of this. And then you've given without any sort of expectation of return. And the guest will have a sense of urgency to give something back. And so this changes the dynamics, this changes the tone and psychology of the conversation, and it makes things much, much more favorable. And this makes it much more likely that the guest is going to have a positive experience because you've already delivered on something when they haven't even asked for anything. So you've demonstrated your ability to meet their needs. You've scratched the most immediate itch when they thought they were going to have to wait. This is also a great way to monetize stock that you can't sell. All right, so showing means asking permission. May I show you something, or do you already know what you want? And what I'm talking about is literally taking the menu and saying, taking the menu and showing them the menu, saying, hey, would you, is this something that you would like? And so I'm gonna ask permission, hey, can I show you something that we really like here? And then get it eye level, right? If you're looking at my camera, and then you just read off the ingredients and show them what they are. So you're including them into the conversation. So you're pointing and calling out any kind of indicators, anything that you think that they might like, and then you're connecting them with understood concepts. Now, this is a whole other thing in itself. I like to build menus that are already understood because I'm not trying to create temples of mixology. I'm trying to create community destinations. Big difference. And so what I like to do is I like to hold the menu. I like to show them, be like, hey, here's a Manhattan. This is like our Manhattan. This is like our margarita. This is like our mule. This is like our spritz, and literally show them what we have that makes sense for what they may have already wanted. Now, this could be a very far distant cousin of what they actually wanted, but making that verbal connection between what they may have already wanted, then walking them through that is a very, very powerful thing, especially when you combine it with the Sullivan nod. You ever seen the Sullivan nod? Who knows what the Sullivan nod is? Take a sip of water here. All right, so the Sullivan nod is when you actually literally nod your head yes on the thing that you want them to try out. And so, if you worked at a steakhouse, you'd be like, okay, we have a center cut today, or we have the sirloin, or we have the fillet. When you put the emphasis on and the yes up and down nod on the Sullivan nod for the center cut, then that is what it is. Then that is what people will influence their decision. So in review, the 4 biggest steps are: make eye contact, wave and say hi, point and call. Like literally point to what you want people to do and they will do it. Introduce, notice, reward, and then be a trusted guide where you're walking them through that. So in the next part, we're going to talk about what happens when it gets busy, and then part 2 of this training, we're going to talk about implementation, and all this is going to be available on Bar Teams. And then the next presentation is going to be the 5 reasons that bars suck at marketing and how to fix it, which is going to be on March 6th. But that's it for today. I hope that this has been interesting, and I hope that you've gotten some value out of this. Again, I'm going to package this up and bundle it up onto barteams.com absolutely for free. I really hope that you can sign up for barteams.com, and I hope that this has been valuable. If you have any questions, I'll stick around for a couple minutes. Otherwise, I hope you've had a wonderful day, and I hope the rest of your day is even more amazing. All right, thanks.